Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you are watching this. If you're watching live, well, even if you're not watching live, this is still Deborah Roth, but it is afternoon in New York City, and I took a deep dive today into the world of Isis, who I've known about for ages. And in this space, those of you that have been with me, or if you're new, know that the big thing that we do is to really reclaim the qualities, the energy of the divine feminine in all of her many forms within us as people, both of any gender, and also hopefully to the world, because those qualities include honoring our intuition and our emotions and viewing compassion and empathy as strengths, not as some sort of wimpy response to things. Our connection to nature, our connection to our bodies, a huge one. So it was, Isis, is there anybody in the world that doesn't know about Isis? She is probably one of the most quintessential goddesses around. And in fact, a lot of the imagery, really, Christian imagery, came out of her holding of the images and the statues of her holding her son Horus, Horus. You can see them. Actually, I'll show you two things. This is my wonderful, plunk myself right on her wing, my wonderful Isis statue that I've had for probably 20 years. She's quite extraordinary. And she's a little bruised. I think at one time or another her wings have fallen off, but fortunately are back on her. She is, as you can see, among other things, she's considered the Queen of Heaven. Looks very angelic, but very powerful. And I was talking about how her imagery, and if you look at this image, you can see this is Isis and her son Horus, holding her son Horus, nursing her son Horus, actually. And here's one of the representations of the Virgin Mary with Jesus. She was so ubiquitous. She was so present in not just Egypt, but the whole Middle East. She made her way out of the Middle East into Germany and beyond. And there was actually, if I can find it in my nifty notes, I'm not going to be able to find it. One of the early Christian priests were called something like pastorale to honor her, which is where we think the word pastor came from, but it was connected with Isis. So the reason that we're celebrating her, you could actually celebrate her many times throughout the year because she has festivals in every season. But we're celebrating her right now because coming up both on July 17th, which is Saturday, I think, 18th, and July 18th are two of her big festival days. And hello, Peggy. And if any of this sounds familiar, it's because I also, and I don't usually, there's so many goddesses, I don't usually duplicate them, but I also posted around. I also did a Facebook, Instagram Live about her on December 23rd, because that is the night, right? What we know as Christmas, or just a little after the solstice, that goddesses around the world gave birth to their sons, as Isis gave birth to Horus. So I did a little bit of Isis play, Isis worshiping back then. And here we are 6 months later. So the two very important things that are coming up. The 17th is called the Night of the Cradle, and it is July 17th, is said to be when she was born. She was actually the daughter of the King of the Heavens, Geb, and her mother, but also her sister. You find a lot of that in Egyptian and other. Let's see, first daughter of Geb, god of the earth, and Nut, who was the goddess of the overarching sky. Nut was also her sister. So we're celebrating her birthday, basically. But then, equally as important, is on the next day, on the 18th, that was celebrated as The night of the drop is what the Muslims now call it, which is a derivative of the night of the teardrop. And that relates to the myth that probably many of you have heard, where, and I won't go into the whole thing, but basically that Isis's beloved husband, Osiris, was murdered by Set in a jealous rage, and there's lots of amazing stuff that happens after that, lots of powerful mythological, metaphorical stuff. And in her grief, Isis cries so much that the Nile overflows. Now, in that part of the world, you can imagine how important water is. So this time of year is also when the Nile overflows its banks, and the original mythology is that is because of Isis's grief, the grief of Isis. And it's also from a cosmological standpoint, from an astronomy standpoint, it's also the time in the sky when Sirius, who was considered the star of Isis, that was another name for Isis, was Sirius. Let's see, it comes into the star goddess. Isis is the star Sirius. It's the heliacal rising of Sirius, on July 20th, around that, in modern day Egypt. And that's also what heralds the inundation of the Nile, which was totally life-giving to the people at that time. So there's so many names, and I'll just read you some of them. She's a star goddess. She's a moon goddess. I have my little crescent moon on, and as always, I have my phases of the moon plate behind me that my wonderful daughter-in-law gave me, Melissa. Let's see. What else do I want to tell you about her? She comes bathed in the stars. She is born on the first day between the years of creation, and was adored by her human followers. What made her special is that, unlike many of the gods and goddesses, really not just in Egypt, but Greece and everywhere else, she really came among the people. She taught them weaving and spinning, and and she tamed men so that they would know how to live with women. I thought that was great when I found that one. She taught her people the skills of reading and agriculture, and she was worshipped as the goddess of medicine and wisdom. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot that she didn't cover. Also a goddess of healing. And because of her relationship, because of the mythology around Osiris, she's also the goddess of death and rebirth, because she does ultimately bring him back to life. And through that, she collects all of the pieces that Set chopped him up into, and reassembles him in her devotion and in her love for him, and begets Horus out of that union. And then, if I'm remembering all my mythology, then Osiris returns to the underworld, since he had died, but he comes back to visit his beloved Isis and to support his son Horus. So there's so much rich metaphorical, metaphysical energy connected with her, and there are devotees all over the world, really, at this point, of Isis and all of her faces. Here's a really wonderful, here's a list of some of the names that she was called. She who is great of magic, goddess of 10,000 names, Auset. Iosothos, ruler of cities, the one who listens, savior of men, mistress of all gods, lady of life, mother of all nature, queen of souls, second son. She who commands life, sovereign of the palace. Isis Potana, that's the winged Isis that I showed you. And she was credited with the power of speech, and she was considered a sustainer, a protectress. In all of the ancient texts talk about her as how beloved she was, and reflected in the fact that she is honored and celebrated in cultures all over the world at this point, and probably will continue to be, because of all of her if you just if you put in Isis, you will find all of her mythology. The fact that she became beloved of the people because she was one among them. So I also can tell you that I looked far and wide for chants to Isis. There are some that, of course, I can't play them here because Instagram, Facebook doesn't let you do that. So what I thought, but please, I encourage you to go, see what you can find on your own, because there's some beautiful renditions. Not anything that I could repeat as a singing chant like I love to do with you here. But the one that immediately came into my head, and it's not just Isis, but it speaks to the 10,000 faces of the goddess, which she represents in many ways. So that goes: Isis, Astarte, Diana, Hecate, Demeter, Kali, Inanna. Isis, Astarte, Diana, Hecate, Demeter, Kali, Inanna. Isis, Astarte, Diana, Hecate, Demeter, Kali, Inanna. So, a lot of names in there. You can dissect them slowly. And sing it in celebration of her this weekend, both on her birthday, which is the 17th, and on the 18th, when we honor her life-giving force on the night of the teardrop, the night of the drop. Thank you for being with me. Please definitely check out my website, spiritedliving.com. Take a look at my Facebook page. You'll see all kinds of fun events and things coming up there. And walk gently in the divine feminine, under the wings of Isis, if you will, through this week. And I'll see you back here next week. Namaste.